time to put things right.
Tomb Raider 4-6 Remastered is the latest release in Aspyr's line of Tomb Raider remasters, which, unsurprisingly considering the title, collects together the 4th, 5th and 6th games in the series, otherwise known as The Last Revelation, Chronicles and The Angel of Darkness. Historically speaking, the verdict on these 3 games is, by turn, quite good really, okay-ish, and famously terrible. That doesn't matter as much as you may think though. The remasters are every bit as heartfelt as they were with the first 3 games, and while the reward for your effort isn't 3 all-time classics this time around, it's something arguably just as interesting. Here are oddities, partial or total misfires, and games that were somewhat in danger of being forgotten.
Mon Dieu!
Aspyr's remastering itself continues to work complicated wonders. Once again, there are tank controls or modern controls for Lara, both coming with the awareness that, while the former may take a lot of getting used to again, the latter never feels entirely right. This is mainly because Lara has always moved within a grid in the core games, and the new controls feel slightly out of step with that grid. There have been some tweaks here, though, and we found it a bit easier to perform Lara's trademark sideways jump with modern controls than we did in the first 3 games. At the very least, with a bit of frustration here and there, all 3 games are thoroughly playable, except maybe The Angel of Darkness, but they all retain that lovely feeling of nostalgia. Ticking things off quickly, photo mode returns, and you can also switch between original graphics and updated graphics at the press of a button. If you're anything like us, you'll be doing this constantly as you play, because you'll want to see what this or that statue looks like now, or maybe what it looked like back then. The new graphics do a lovely job of updating each game, whilst keeping them looking somewhat old, but like the original 3 remasters, they do tend to make things very dark. We spent most of our time tackling the game's most difficult bits in the original graphics, partly because they lean towards light and colour, and partly because PS1 graphics now look absolutely glorious, weird and otherworldly and abstract and magical. With that stuff out of the way, we can get on to what's most interesting here. How have these games aged? Well, The Last Revelation wasn't just the 4th game in the series, it was also the first Tomb Raider game to spend most of its time in a single country, and that country was Egypt. Core design managed to make its tombs seem genuinely ancient here. As always, Lara feels very alone and very deeply submerged as she makes her way through them, but there's also that uplifting sense of working your way around a giant mechanism that the best Tomb Raider levels offer. The Last Revelation offers this again and again. What if I set this room on fire? What if I filled this one with sand? What if I'm thinking about everything wrong? Interestingly, this remaster of The Last Revelation also bundles in a bonus level with it that was once given away with the Times newspaper, and it is every bit as weird as that sounds. Shout out to the picture of the Crankies on the wall there. Now that is a lost artifact.
Now you're getting interesting. Whose tomb?
Chronicles is a bit harder to love than The Last Revelation. It isn't that bad, but it isn't always that good either. It feels more than anything like the work of a brilliant team who have been doing the same thing for too long and have probably earned a decent holiday. So instead of being in one extended location like The Last Revelation is, we get a range of Laras throughout her career, going after various different doodads. That's not a terrible idea in its own right, but be prepared to spend a lot of Chronicles getting stuck again and again on something annoying. A key might be left on the ground, and the ground might have a pattern on it that makes the key hard to see, for instance. Or a vent in the submarine level might not suggest itself as a vent that you could actually move through. There's a lot of sneaking into buildings dressed in black and dodging lasers too, which is cool, but there's also a lot of shooting. Back then we knew that shooting was not what Tomb Raider was good at, and this remains the same way in the remasters. That being said, we enjoyed returning to Chronicles way more than we expected to. Take the opening levels, which dump you into Rome in the modern era. It's Rome, sure, with alleyways and houses and things, but even though the design team was trying to create something that's not a tomb, it didn't tweak the way it created its levels at all. And in the end, this version of Rome is essentially still a tomb. Yes, you may see the sky overhead, but still it's basically a tomb, and this makes the game feel really, really weird, in a wonderful way. Rome is filled with dead ends and gardens that become labyrinths. There's nobody but the odd angry dog on the street, no sounds except for the window you're breaking to get another health pack. A house may contain nothing but a single room with a switch in it, and then that switch opens a trapdoor in a different house. It's weird, but this is not a criticism. We genuinely love it. Games just don't feel like this anymore, but Tomb Raider always did. And it's a part of why these old games still feel so distinct.
You is one clever cookie, boss.
Comparatively, yes. Come, let's get off this roof, and I will buy you a milkshake.
So that's the quite good really and okay-ish games out of the way, but how does the famously terrible Tomb Raider hold up? Well, the biggest problem with the Angel of Darkness back when it released was the controls, and fair warning, if you opt for the tank controls here, they are still truly horrible. Lara feels almost comically sluggish to move around, while jumps are more fiddly than they used to be, and the fancier environments are pretty much filled with things to snag yourself on. Modern controls make it much more playable, but despite what feels like a speed boost, the sluggishness and heaviness remains. In short, the Angel of Darkness still feels awful to play. But it is interesting, and much more of a departure than we remembered. The Angel of Darkness kicks off in the grottier areas of Paris, with a serial killer on the loose, and Lara moving between ratty apartments while being chased by the cops. Where are the waterfalls that have something cool behind them, though? The sunken ships and the opera houses? This switch in tone gives the Angel of Darkness an identity crisis it just can't recover from. Unlike Chronicles, this is the first core design game where we'd argue that, rather than always feeling like you're in a tomb, you rarely do so here. There are a lot of cool ideas. Lara's chasing after paintings, there's a high-tech ramble through the Louvre, and a spot of apartment hopping whilst being chased by a helicopter, to name but a few of them. There's also just a lot of ideas in general. Lara's abilities evolve based on a silly system whose machinations are hard to foresee and can therefore lead to moments where you get properly stuck. She can wall hug and look around corners, there's a lunge at melee combat, and even a stamina bar for climbing. Oh, and semi-open environments where Lara engages people in conversation and picks through dialogue trees.
Package?
It's a lot, but having too many ideas and visibly struggling with the ideas you do have can make a game almost lovable with the passage of time, particularly when the worst of the controls have been ironed out.
The jump to that canopy looks challenging, but I think I can make it. Walk to the edge and stop. Now push forward and jump.
As a Tomb Raider fan then, this is the most playable that the series' least engaging entry has ever been, and it's nice to have it within reach again, in a way that doesn't involve digging around in the attic and cursing the controls. Angel of Darkness is an odd place to leave Lara though. We went through so much with her in the core games, and here she is now, clad in double denim, standing outside a warehouse in Paris, shooting a dog in the head while a chopper circles overhead. These 3 games aren't always Lara Croft at her best then, but as far as we can tell, they've been cared for as if they are, which is what a good remaster should do. And in certain moments, as is always the case with this series, they still shine like a long-lost tomb full of gold. Thank you so much for watching this review of Tomb Raider 4-6 Remastered. If you enjoyed it and it helped you decide whether or not you want to spend your hard-earned tomb loot on the game, please do give this video a like and subscribe to Eurogamer for almost daily videos about video games. And if you fancy sticking with us for more reviews, you'll find a few of them on screen and clickable right now. Goodbye.